the team idShapers, along with Super Accelerator, Sandra Ro. Good morning. How you doing? Good morning. Welcome back. You guys look really fresh. Did you sleep last night?
I did.
Fabulous.
A little bit.
Cool. Sandra.
Yes.
You also came a long way to be here.
Came from New York.
And you had to see so many teams over the last couple of days, and you were saying to me last night, it's the jet lag and everything. It's been a little bit information overload. But why did you pick this team?
So I look and travel around the world and look at big problems. Big problems that then you break down. So let's talk about identity. Everyone knows 7.5, 7.6 billion people in the world. Some have government-issued identity, others do not. We're not going to sit here and try to solve for all 7.5, 7.6 billion here today, but the ideas that actually excite me the most is when we can take a subset of that and say, hey, identity is the gateway for almost all of this tech to work. If we don't get digital identity right, and if we don't actually help make sure that digital identity sits with us and not with an institution or just solely with a company, we are going to have the problems that we're facing today around data privacy and who owns data. Because at the end of the day, the wars that will happen in net is how do we organize? And I think what we need to really start thinking about is how do we organize, conceive, and also distribute data. And starting with identity, I love what idShapers is doing because also we believe in a world where government, corporations, and really talented startups and entrepreneurs, developers work together. And this is a use case, which you guys will talk about in a second, that makes sense to me, and it's doable. And when something is doable in the next 6 to 12 months, I want to help support that. So what we're doing at the GBBC, which is a Swiss nonprofit focusing on promoting the business of blockchain, we are providing free membership to this team for a year. It's normally $15,000 with a vetting process, but because they've already been vetted, we'll be letting them in, and we'll be opening up our network to them. And our network is global and pretty extensive.
Wow, we haven't even started the session, and you're already putting money on the table. Love it.
So there you go.
Team, it's been a heck of a weekend, I know. Can you enlighten our audience as to what it was you built this weekend?
So we worked with KLM, Schiphol Airport, Border Patrol, and tried to create a common infrastructure for trust and control for the user within that specific use case. And as you can see over here, we defined the problem really specifically, because the wider problem of storage, like you said, we can't solve everything in 48 hours. And we're all actually working on the same thing. So the part of the problem that we chose to focus on is that users can't reclaim their data once it's shared, and that the lack of trust really means longer lines in airports. I travel a lot. I'm sure a lot of you travel to get here. And this is an immediate pain point that we can solve for. And how we've articulated this solution is a common interface of trust and control, like I said, and 2 clicks for what used to take 2 hours. So these are really, I'll talk you through some of our principles that we can impact within the KLM infrastructure, but I'll talk you through some of our principles as well and frameworks that we've applied to thinking about this problem. Trust is one of them. We're building a system of verifiable claims. KLM can verify the user, as will Schiphol Airport in the future, if we get them on board, and as will Border Patrol. And the idea is to have a system that is completely verification, claim-based reputation. Your data never leaves your phone. So this allows you to create more trust and more control for the user. And another concept that was really important to us, because this is a corporate coming to the table and saying, we want to build this piece of the infrastructure, but there's also governments, there's also banks and different players in creating this verification system. So portability is super important to us. We don't want to lock a user into the KLM interface or infrastructure. We want to let you use this identity that you've created for Uber, for we had a concept from home to hotel. right? And for all services that touch you within the space, you should be using this universe ID.
Yeah, I can probably...
Control, yes. And the final one that I have is, I'm blocked at the moment.
Yeah, I can probably...
Control, yes. Oh goodness, I've been saying this so many times, I've forgotten. But yeah, controlled. We have an interface that allows you to see exactly what kind of data that's shared with different entities. Within the airport, you're touching multiple entities in itself, and what exact data is being shared with them, and allow you to revoke access at any point. Could we go to the next slide, please?
Yep, I can do that for you.
Sorry.
So very briefly, the user experience that we aim to achieve eventually is once you establish the universe ID that we're trying to build is you can do this biometric check-in, and the most important fact with that is if you allow to share your encrypted face biometrics, then essentially you can skip most of the queues. You can still do queues if you want, but if you choose to share, let's say, your boarding pass or passport information with different touch points in the airport, you can skip most of the queues. And the data is shared. And after you land, you can always revoke it. So this is what we mean by you stay in the control. And we use blockchain to facilitate the revocation of information. And in the next slide, I can briefly guide you through. Is there a
Real way.
Yep.
Press the button. Cool. Nice. So we have these two stages. The enrollment happens through one of the supporting apps. It can be KLM, but it can be any Universe ID compatible app. The information is verified, and we generate these tamper-proof claims that become part of your identity. You want to share. The most importantly, the visual. You share the information with the parties you want to share. The most importantly, the visual recognition system. And we also use the blockchain, the Factum blockchain, to store the audit trail. So the fact of sharing and the fact of revocation. So that is our technical architecture.
So what I'm spotting here is you've sort of very, very cleverly taken, as Sandra said, a small subsection of what we call sovereign identity and said, let's actually make this work with a use case, with a business case, in the true user-first perspective, and it just makes sense.
I mean, blockchain makes sense, right?
Scaling up from there once you've proven it. I mean, I'm going to look at some of these guys in the front row. You know, we hear all of the blockchain naysayers, as Constantine was saying. You know, don't support this stupid technology. Saying, give me a use case and show me how it's going to work. You've actually got one. Ladies and gentlemen, give them a huge round of applause for Sandra Ro and idShapers. Thanks.